Right now on Upfront.
The new nominee.
And when we fight, we win!
Vice President Kamala Harris making it official in Wisconsin.
We have earned the support of enough delegates to secure the Democratic nomination.
100 days until Election Day, the historic sprint. Delegates lining up, virtual voting beginning in just days, and top Democrats firmly standing behind Harris.
I know that we will win.
Our guest this Sunday, Democratic Senator Tammy Baldwin, one-on-one in her own re-election fight herself, and on the ground with Wisconsin voters. Then, game change.
I was supposed to be nice. If you don't mind, I'm not going to be nice. Is that okay?
The Trump campaign on the road, the post-RNC blitz with a still laser focus on Wisconsin. Republican Party of Wisconsin Executive Director Andrew Iverson with us. The 100-day sprint starts now.
This is Upfront with Jaron Jordan and political director Matt Smith.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Well, what a week and another busy one in store. Democratic delegates set to start voting virtually this week to nominate Vice President Kamala Harris as the party's nominee. It's been exactly 1 week since President Joe Biden dropped out of the race, and in less than 48 hours, Harris had secured the support of enough delegates to halt any threat of chaos on the convention floor. Harris officially launching her campaign this past week in Wisconsin. And the instant support from top Democrats included Senator Tammy Baldwin, the Wisconsin Democrat running for her third term in the Senate in November and facing Republican challenger Eric Hovde. We talked with Baldwin earlier this week. Let's talk about the news of President Biden obviously dominating the news cycle this week. You said this past weekend on Sunday that President Biden made the right decision in dropping out. I'm curious, do you regret not speaking up on that sooner?
You know, I have been in constant communication, frankly, with both the White House and the Biden campaign, really conveying what I've been hearing from Wisconsin voters. You know, they usually start by saying, I love Joe Biden, and he has done so much, but it's time. And it was becoming so frequent, I felt an urgency to make sure they knew that was happening in this incredibly important battleground state.
Some Democrats have said they would like to see more of an open process in the coming weeks, potentially an open convention. Is there any scenario where you would support that?
Well, I don't think it's likely to happen that way. Certainly, I've seen many people join me and others in endorsing Kamala Harris right away.
Some critics have said that is just further proof that top donors and top Democrats essentially forced President Biden out. They have crowned Vice President Harris with Democratic voters brushed to the side.
You know, what I was hearing from is not some elite or donor class. Every rally I went to, the 4th of July parades that I attended in northern Wisconsin, just average people were coming up, and they so respect the work that Joe Biden has done. But they were conveying to me and asking me to convey to the president that they appreciate his work, and they asked him to step aside.
Some Republicans in the past 24 hours have called on President Biden to resign, saying if he cannot run for re-election, he is not fit to be commander-in-chief. I'm curious about your thoughts on that criticism. Should he resign?
No, he should not resign. You know, I think the questions that people were raising were about stamina for the campaign itself, and also, you know, this is a 4-year term. But that's very, very different from what we're looking at right now. He's been a great president. He is on top of the issues he needs to, and as he said in his statement, I'm going to give my full focus to his final 6 months in office.
So you have full faith in the president's ability, his mental acuity as we sit here today to lead the nation?
I think the administration and Biden is perfectly capable of finishing out the term.
The president himself?
The president himself.
President Biden first directed Vice President Harris to deter and to address the root cause of migration when they took office. Republicans are campaigning heavily on this already. She was referred to as the border czar at the Republican National Convention here in Milwaukee multiple times. I'm curious, has she and has the administration addressed immigration and border security adequately?
It's Congress's role to address the border. And we need to restore order. We need to make sure that cases are processed much more quickly the cases meaning asylum, people who are seeking asylum. It shouldn't take 8 years, it should take 8 months. And we worked and also to stem the flow of illegal fentanyl, synthetic fentanyl, which is killing way too many Americans and Wisconsinites.
Are there too many people crossing the border right now?
Yeah, absolutely, and there's a lack of order. We worked in the Senate very hard to put together a strong bipartisan border security package. That was earlier this year. But you know what? My opponent and the former president started playing politics with this. They didn't want the problem solved. They wanted a political issue, as you heard, come up in their convention. This shouldn't be a political issue. We are able to come together, as our bipartisan legislation showed, and we should get it passed. And we need to restore order.
But if there were less border crossings during the Trump administration than there are now, doesn't that fall on President Biden and Democrats?
We brought a border bill to the floor. It had been negotiated with Republicans. Donald Trump tanked it. He told his Republican members in the Senate, I want an issue to run on. Don't fix this. Don't give them a win on this. That is playing politics with very serious matters, and it should never have been done.
Broadly, Wisconsin voters in polling say immigration and the economy are their top issues, the economy being number one. I'm curious what you tell a Wisconsin voter, an independent voter, let's say, who says, you know what, I think I was better off 4 years ago when I go to pay my mortgage, when I go to the grocery store, and I go to the gas station. What do you tell them?
Well, there's no question that prices are up, and that when I go grocery shopping, I sometimes have sticker shock. But let's look at two things. One, why? It was COVID, and it started under President Trump. Supply chains, jammed up. Most of prices have to do with supply and demand. The problem now is that it hasn't eased in the grocery store because of corporate greed, frankly. Their input costs are lower, but they're not lowering the price that we're paying. And we do have to have a cop on the beat with regard to corporate greed. But in terms of the record of lowering prices, in the bill that we passed called the Inflation Reduction Act, we are lowering the price of prescription drugs. Medicare is doing its first round of negotiations with the big, powerful pharmaceutical companies, and we're seeing prices go down. But yes, I would absolutely agree that prices need to come down more, and we need to have a plan, and that's what we do.
And to the fact that voters say they overwhelmingly trust Trump more on the economy over Biden and the Biden administration, which will now potentially flow to Vice President Harris. How do you respond to that as a candidate running for U.S. Senate?
Well, look at jobs created under each administration. You couldn't have a stronger contrast. Look here in Wisconsin about jobs that, we make things in the state. Jobs coming back. I was in a company in Kenosha County late last year. They're going to double their workforce from 200 to 400 to make components for the broadband build out.
You told the New York Times on Friday, when you look back to your race in 2018, you had crossover voters, some Republicans voting for you, and it doesn't look like that's happening anymore in Wisconsin. Why do you think that is? And is your race going to be much closer this cycle than it was in 18?
Well, I'd start by saying Wisconsin typically has razor-thin margins for their statewide races. Trump won by less than a percentage point in 16, Biden less than a percentage point in 20. And in our midterms, the race between Ron Johnson and Mandela Barnes was the closest in the country. So I go into every race expecting that it's going to be razor-thin.
In 2018, you committed to 3 debates. You participated in 3 debates. This cycle, you've committed to 1. You rejected an invitation, including from WISN TV. I'm curious why the change?
Well, I have a day job as senator. I travel the state extensively, want to make sure that I have the opportunity to get around. But the Broadcasters Association, of which you're a member, has agreed to air this statewide, so that wherever you are, you're going to get a chance to see the debate, and I'm very much looking forward to it.
And so is WISN if you change your mind on that. Eric Hovde says you were afraid to debate him.
Oh, Not a chance. Don't worry about that. I'm going to be there.
A wide-ranging conversation. Democratic U.S. Senator Tammy Baldwin. Senator, like always, we appreciate your time.
Thank you. I appreciate yours.
Up next, Republicans responding this week. The new game plan to take on Vice President Harris in this key battleground, the fundraising, the ground game. Republican Party of Wisconsin Executive Director Andrew Iverson standing by next.